Supporters of the legislation say racial discrimination in voting remains a serious concern in many parts of the country.
There's no greater threat, I think, to our democracy than access to the ballot box.
Alabama Democrat Terri Sewell says voter ID laws, closing polling stations, and reducing early voting periods all have more impact on minority voters. 4 years ago, the U.S. Supreme Court struck down part of the 1965 Voting Rights Act. The court said a formula used to determine which states needed federal permission before changing voting laws was outdated.
The disparities in voting rates by race or registration rates by race did not correspond to which jurisdictions had been covered.
Sewell's legislation develops a new formula that only looks at violations after 1990.
And believe it or not, 14 states have had 4 or more statewide violations of voter discrimination, including the state of Alabama, Arizona, New York, California.
Representative Sewell says she plans to introduce her legislation this summer, but with a Republican-controlled Congress, it likely faces an uphill battle. Ilya Shapiro with the Libertarian Cato Institute says courts can police violations of voting rights without pre-clearance requirements, and he rejects the notion that voting laws target minorities.
That's a patronizing argument. That's like saying that members of racial minority groups are incapable of functioning in society.
There are still modern-day barriers to voting.
Sewell admits that she's struggling to attract Republican co-sponsors, but she says she'll continue to push her legislation that she sees as critical to continuing progress on civil rights. In Washington, I'm Drew Petrimo.